Hi, before I get started, I just wanted to mention that about 70% of you folks who are watching my videos are not subscribed. I don't get paid for doing this and I don't really care. I just like to share this stuff because not many people are doing this sort of work anymore, and it would just be nice, I thought, to share it with other people. So anyway, if you like this sort of thing, this unscripted stuff with, an old guy out here working on motorcycles, old motorcycles in real time, just take the time to click that like button and subscribe. Subscribing doesn't cost you a nickel. It doesn't change anything in terms of what happens on your computer or your cell phone or your tablet or whatever you're watching this on. So like I say, if you got 2 seconds to click that subscribe button and click like after you're done watching, I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, this is something I don't do often, is a review on a bike. But while this bike is here, I don't own any BSAs of my own at the moment. I have owned BSAs before. But while this one is still here in the shop, I think I'd kind of like to do a little review on them, just to talk about the BSA unit twins and what I like and don't like about them. But anyway, this may not be the best example as far as looks goes of an A65 Lightning, but it's not the worst one either. There are modifications done to this bike. I got part of the story about what was behind it. I think it was put together by somebody who owned a motorcycle dealership, but they didn't know much about British bikes. I think that was the story I got from about it anyway. I may ask about that and find out if I'm right or wrong. But when it showed up here the first time, there were a lot of things that were just a mess on it. Like the way the front fender was mounted and that sort of thing. Like that fender is definitely not BSA. I'm not sure what it's off of, but I managed to gear up a set of mounts for it that would work quite well. So anyway, BSA made a damn good bike. I mean, back in the day, they were not the fastest bike. They were not the most beautiful bike, at least in my opinion, but they were an affordable bike. I mean, they were, of the big three of Norton, Triumph, and BSA, they were probably the most affordable. I think the middle ground was held by Triumph, and then if you had the extra money, you could get yourself a Norton. But anyway, one of the great things about these unit twin BSAs is the top end on them. It's just a good design. There are only 4 places on these things that can leak. Maybe 5 if you want to count the oil line going into the head. But there's the joint between the valve cover and the cylinder head right here. That joint can leak. There's the head gasket. That joint can leak. There's the base gasket. That joint can leak. And of course the little oil feed line way up in there. That's it. 4 spots that can leak on that top end of that bike. There's no push rod tubes to leak. There's no rocker arm shafts or anything like that to leak. There's no oil feed lines except for the one going in there to leak. It's a very good oil tight design as far as the top end goes. So kudos to BSA for that. I mean, these bikes have a roller bearing on the drive side and a triplex chain in there. So the primary drives are very strong. The clutch is very similar to the one that's in a Triumph. I think it might even be exactly the same, except that it's a triplex chain instead of a duplex. But yeah, they're a good, strong machine, simple to work on. Oh, what else was I going to say about it? You know, it's quite, they respond quite well to modifications. This one here is not modified in the engine at all, but I have worked on another one. I've worked on an awful lot of these BSA machines because frankly, there are a lot of them around, and I think it was because they were so inexpensive and so reliable. There's a bushing on the timing side of these engines that holds the crankshaft, and a lot of people bitch and complain about that. But the thing is, back in the day when these things were new, nobody, especially young fellas, did not care for these bikes. They suffered an awful lot of neglect many times. Of course, in here is where that bushing would be, in under these engine covers here. But of course, with dirty oil and stuff circulating in the engine, that bushing would wear. And if you keep clean oil in the bike, well, guess what? That bushing lasts for a long, 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 long time. Even if you have dirty oil in it, it still lasts a long time. But yeah, they're a good machine. They're a good design. They're solid. This one has the twin leading shoe brakes on it. That's a very, very good brake. Triumph used that brake too on their Bonneville and on the T100 models as well. The forks are quite simple to work at, especially on the earlier version. They had a very simple damping system. This particular one is a little more complicated because it has a damper rod that screws into that nut there. This, of course, is not stock. This is something that was put on by one of the previous owners. And like I did mention, that's not an original fender to this bike. But that's okay. It still does the job, keeps the mud off the driver. There are 4-speed gearbox. The kick is very easy to operate. I quite often say that a little girl could start one of these BSAs up. It takes hardly any effort at all to kick these things over. I could use a new rubber on that kickstart there. Maybe I'll see if I got one of them kicking around. I may, and I may not. If I do, I'll put it on. Those aren't the stock mufflers on this bike. Those are from a Harley Sportster, I believe. And of course, the signal lights are add-ons. But this is a nice affair. Real good solid tail light bracket on there. That's cast aluminum, and they polish up quite well. But I wish it was nice outdoors. I take it outside, but it's raining out right now, so I'm not going out in the rain with it. I polished it up once already. It's got a little bit of dust and dirt on it from sitting for most of the winter, but the owner can clean that up. But anyway, yeah, the engine, good solid machine. They pull well, they're strong, they're gutsy. The power is there right from idle right on up. They're all about torque, these things, and they've got a little bit of a valvey sound to them, but that's the way VSA twins sound. They all sound a little bit on the valvey side, not quite as much as a Triumph does, but anyway, Lucas Electrics, this particular one has electronic ignition in, which I am not a fan of, and everybody knows that, so I won't go into that. But anyways, like I say, this has got the original Lucas alternator in it, and doesn't need anything better than that. I did put a LED headlight in this machine because I converted it over to negative ground, and that particular bulb went right in it, so that was an easy swap over. I'm not a big fan of these of this type of petcock here. They were something that Alley-Oop had back in the caveman days when they didn't have rubber. They used cork for seals in them. The cork works good, but when it dries out, they start leaking. And of course, they're pretty easy to replace. They're only made of cork, so it's not a big deal. But like I say, very simple machine, 2 valves per cylinder, 2 cylinders. Like I say, if you're looking to get an inexpensive easy to ride, nice handling, gutsy old British twin, then this is a great choice. They do make a really good bike. I mean, I had one, well, actually, the chap that owns this, I got it from his grandfather. It was a project he had, and he traded me that project bike for a paint job on one that he was doing up. So I carried on with that project, and it was an interesting bike because it had the unit engine in it, but it was a pre-unit frame with the plungers in the back. So I tried to make it look like a 50s bike basically, and it came out really well. It was a beautiful old machine, and I think that bike is still around. I'd really love to see it back on the road, though. It hasn't been on the road in probably 10 years because the people who bought it weren't really motorcycle people. They were scooter people and thought they'd like to try motorcycles, and it didn't work out. So, anyway, yeah. So, what else can I say about it? Seat's relatively comfortable. It's a little difficult if you're sitting two up because you tend to have to go toward the gas tank because that pump on the back of the seat, it looks nice, but the passenger is kind of pinned there and can't move back any further on the seat. So, the passenger is going to push you as the driver ahead up toward the tank, and so it can be a little bit uncomfortable to ride two up on one. But if you're light and skinny, then you can ride two up on them, and they're quite comfortable. But they do tend to get a little buzzy over 50 miles an hour, but the bikes will go like you can go 70 miles an hour all day long on them if you want to, if you can stand the tingle and the buzziness of it all. But I find that most of these that I have driven are very, very comfortable rides up. They're very nice bikes on secondary roads. Like if you're going along about 45, maybe 50 miles an hour, that's where they seem to be happy. And if the bike is happy, the rider's happy. But like I say, they're reliable. If everything is worked out on these bikes, they're just as reliable as a Japanese twin from the same period. They just will not take the same amount of neglect that a Japanese bike will. If you neglect these and you don't do your maintenance on them, they will just decide to take a rest on the side of the road on you. Tends to be the way it is. But anyway, like I said before, if you're looking for a good machine that's going to treat you right, and you're not going to abuse it or wring its freaking neck or anything like that, you got to remember that these things are 50 years old. You got to be a little bit nice to them, and if you are, they'll last you a good long time. And frankly, if you let me think, the between the big three, Triumphs, in my opinion, were definitely a more beautiful styled bike than these. Like these BSAs, they usually had a chrome tank on them, chrome on the sides, so that sparkled them up a little bit. They look quite nice with a chrome tank. But the overall styling isn't quite as pretty as a Triumph, and I do like the shape of a Triumph engine, even though the top end is a lot more prone to leaking. And the Commando has just got that brutally aggressive stance to it. Like they're beautiful in that regard. Like they look like they mean business. This looks more like a bike you're going to take out on Saturday afternoon and just take it for a drive and enjoy it. And that's what they're for. So anyway, I think I'll call that it for this little clip. And anyway, if it does get nicer out in the next couple of days, I will take it outside and I'll do a start up on it for you. But meanwhile, it's supposed to rain for the next couple of days, so I may not get that into this video. If I do, that's great. If I don't, well, we'll have to call this the end of the clip. But anyway, I'll wait and see what happens. Oh, let's get back to this because I forgot a couple of things. I lost my train of thought when I was talking about the engine itself, and modifications to the engine to get a little more power out of it. The chap that owns this, I worked on his father's bike engine years and years ago, and I just made a few simple modifications to that. One of them was to lighten the flywheel. I took a 16th of an inch off the circumference of the flywheel, which is probably equates to about a pound of steel coming off of there. And they're a very, very heavy flywheel, so great for torque and that sort of thing. But due to that bike will spin up a whole lot faster than a standard one like this one here will. And also on that bike, I put, I believe it was 38 millimeter carburetors, PWKs actually, on that bike. So they're quite a bit larger carbs than the 30 mil Amels. And that combination of the larger carburetor and the lighter flywheel really did make a big difference in the butt you get when you crack the throttle open on that bike, because it is noticeably quicker than this one here. And what was the other thing? The other thing I wanted to mention is these came with two different types of head. This, of course, is a Lightning because it has two carburetors. And the Thunderbolt was basically the same from the cylinder down, but it only had one carburetor. So it depends on who you are. I don't think you get that much more power out of a twin carb setup. You're going to get some, and it's probably going to be noticeable if you got off of one bike with one carburetor and onto one with two carburetors like this one. But honestly, what would I prefer? I prefer the twin carb setup. I just like two carburetors better than one. If you have a problem with one carburetor on a twin carb bike, it's a lot easier to get home than it is if you have a problem with your carburetor on a single carb bike. It's going to be a little more difficult to get home on. But and there's also the question of starting them. Like if the bike is still warm and you're not sure if you should tickle those carbs or not, just tickle one of them instead of both. The bike is going to start on one carburetor even if the engine's too cold to start like it normally would. If you tickle both the carbs, you may flood the engine if the engine's too hot, right? But I mean, once the engine has even got a little bit of heat in it, though, in these, you don't need to tickle them at all. You don't need to press those primers, or ticklers, as they call them, down. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's the two things that I forgot to talk about in the last little clip here. So anyway, hopefully I can get this outside and do a start on it before I give this back to the owner. But if not, well, we'll call her quits. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is ready to go home. I'm just going to do a quick startup to show you how well this thing starts. Like I say, a BSA. You know, if you're looking for a good bike that's reliable, easy to use, I mean, I really don't think you could do better than one of these for the money. So just prime the two carburetors. I'm not going to put the choke on. I'm just going to try to start it up without the choke. Its ambient temperature in here is about 17 or 18 degrees, I think. So I shouldn't need the choke. So ignition on. I said those are primed. So it shouldn't take more than a couple of jabs of this starter to get it going. I would know about it by now. But, well, it's good to go. So thanks for watching. Be good to each other, and I'll have something different next time.